Engines rarely die from one big explosion. They die slowly, from little parts nobody thinks about. And when that part fails, the repair bill makes your jaw drop. So in this video, we're breaking down 10 of the cheapest, most overlooked parts that can destroy your engine fast. And at the end of this video, we'll reveal that one golden rule every smart car owner follows. The difference between an engine that runs forever and one that dies before it should. Number 10. PCV valve. It's one of the cheapest parts under your hood, usually less than a lunch combo. But when the valve clogs or sticks, the damage it creates is massive. The PCV, or positive crankcase ventilation system's whole job is to let gases escape from the crankcase and get reburned in the intake. But when the valve clogs, pressure builds up inside the engine. That pressure has to go somewhere. It forces oil past seals, it pushes sludge into places it doesn't belong, and it can even cause oil consumption to skyrocket. We've seen customers come in convinced their engine was blown because they were burning a quart of oil every week, only to find it was nothing more than a $15 PCV valve that hadn't been changed in years. Ignore it long enough and you're not just talking about oil loss. Sludge buildup from a bad PCV can gum up piston rings, foul spark plugs, and choke out sensors, a chain reaction that shortens your engine's life completely. It's not a big repair, but leaving it unchecked can lead to bigger problems. As mentioned before, fouled spark plugs, clogged sensors, and even damaged seals. So don't wait for blue smoke or rising oil use. Replace the PCV valve every 50,000 miles or during major services, and you'll avoid a lot of expensive trouble later. Number 9. Thermostat. The thermostat is a small, simple part, but it decides whether your engine runs at the right temperature. When the engine's cold, it stays closed up to help things warm up. Once the engine reaches operating temp, it opens to let coolant circulate. But when the thermostat sticks shut, coolant can't move through the radiator. Heat builds up fast and the engine starts cooking itself from the inside out. We've seen cars overheat in less than 10 minutes, warping cylinder heads and blowing head gaskets, all because of a $20 thermostat that was never replaced. On the other hand, if it sticks open, the engine may never warm up properly. Fuel economy drops, emissions rise, and drivability starts to become a headache. It's one of those parts nobody thinks about until it fails. But replacing it every time you do a major coolant service, about every 5 to 7 years, can save your engine from a very expensive meltdown. Ignore the thermostat and you won't just overheat, you'll overpay. Number 8. Oil filter. Changing oil is routine, but the filter is just as critical and often overlooked. Its job is to catch dirt, metal shavings, and sludge before they can circulate through the engine. But when the filter is cheap or neglected, it can fail in the worst way possible. We've opened filters that had collapsed inside, blocking oil flow completely. In one case, the engine looked fine on the dipstick. Plenty of oil, clean color, but none of it was reaching the top end because the filter had clogged solid. Within weeks, the cams were starved, the engine seized, and the repair bill was thousands, all from a filter that costs less than a tank of gas. But the truth is, not all filters are created equal. Bargain bin brands use weak paper and flimsy valves that can either bypass completely, letting dirty oil run through the system, or block flow entirely. Either way, your engine loses. The oil keeps your engine alive, but the filter decides if that oil is clean. Don't trust a $5 filter with your $5,000 engine. Number 7. Timing belt or chain hardware. The timing belt or chain keeps your engine's camshaft and crankshaft perfectly in sync. If that timing slips, pistons and valves collide and the damage is instant. Most people know that the belt itself wears out, but here's what gets missed: the tensioners and pulleys that guide it. We've seen brand new belts fail in weeks because an old pulley seized or a tensioner spring weakened. One customer with a Mitsubishi had just replaced his belt but skipped the tensioner to save a few bucks. 2 months later, cruising at highway speed, the tensioner gave out. The belt lost control, valves bent, pistons scarred, and the engine never ran again. All because a $20 part was ignored. That's why smart mechanics never just do the belt. They replace the full kit: belt, pulleys, tensioner, and even the water pump if it's driven off the same system. Cutting corners here is basically gambling your entire engine on the weakest link. So please, don't gamble on a $20 part. Replace the whole kit or risk losing the whole engine. Number 6. Serpentine belt. The serpentine belt might just look like a simple rubber loop, but it powers some of your engine's most important systems: the alternator, water pump, power steering, and AC. If this belt snaps, all of them stop instantly. We once saw a car towed in after the driver ignored the belt's warning signs: cracks, glazing, and constant squealing. On the freeway, the belt finally shredded. Within minutes, the battery drained, the engine overheated, and the power steering was gone. And you could imagine the repair bill. Easily 3-4 times the price of just replacing the belt in the first place. These belts wear gradually, so the signs are easy to spot: squealing noises, visible cracks, fraying, or shiny spots. Replacing one early is cheap and simple, especially compared to the chain reaction of problems when it fails on the road. So if your belt squeals, it's not just annoying, it's a warning. Replace it before it leaves you stranded. Number 5. Radiator cap. Yes, the cap. Most people see it as just a lid, but the radiator cap is far more important than it looks. Its job is to hold pressure inside the cooling system, which raises the boiling point of coolant and keeps the engine running at a stable temperature. When the cap gets weak or stops sealing, coolant starts to boil at lower temperatures. Air pockets form, overheating begins, and the damage adds up fast. We've had customers replace radiators, water pumps, and even entire hoses, only to find the real problem was a $10 cap that couldn't hold pressure. And the signs are actually subtle: disappearing coolant with no visible leaks, overheating on long drives, or random temperature spikes. Replacing the cap is one of the quickest and cheapest fixes you can do, but ignoring it can ruin your engine over time. Don't underestimate the cheapest part of your cooling system. It can be the one that saves your engine. Number 4. Ignition coil or spark plugs. These might look like tiny, inexpensive parts, but they control the heart of your engine, the spark. Without a strong spark, fuel doesn't ignite properly. That misfire may feel like a little shake or hesitation while driving, but the damage behind the scenes can be huge. Unburned fuel from a misfire goes straight into your catalytic converter. That's a part designed to clean emissions, not burn raw gas. So the excessive heat melts the internal catalyst material, clogging the system and leaving you with a repair bill that can cost thousands. We've seen perfectly good engines, just a few thousand miles old, ruined because old plugs and cheap ignition coils caused constant misfires. Here, also, the signs aren't subtle if you don't know what to look for: rough idle, hesitation under acceleration, poor fuel economy, or a flashing check engine light. But many drivers ignore them until it's too late, and the fix is to replace spark plugs and coils before they fail, and always stick with quality parts. OEM or high-quality aftermarket parts last longer and prevent this domino effect of damage. Don't let tiny sparks destroy your engine. One misfire today can mean thousands in repairs tomorrow. Number 3. Oil pressure sensor. It's tiny, it costs almost nothing, usually around $30, but it's one of the most important little eyes on your engine. Its job is simple: monitor oil pressure and let you know if something's wrong. But when it fails, it can lie to you in 2 dangerous ways. First, it flickers or gives false warnings. You might panic thinking your pump is failing, and you'd end up spending money chasing a problem that isn't real. Second, the deadly one. It reads normal even when your oil pressure drops. We've seen customers drive for weeks thinking everything was fine, only to seize the engine completely. By the time they realized it, repairs were catastrophic. Some engines even have a tiny filter screen under the sensor that can clog with sludge, giving a false reading even if the sensor itself is fine. Ignore it, and you're gambling with your engine's life. So if the sensor is old, faulty, or giving strange readings, replace it immediately. It's cheap, quick, and protects thousands of dollars in engine damage. Number 2. Crankshaft position sensor. It's a tiny part, usually under $50, but it's basically your engine's brain telling it when to fire. Without it, your car can stall without warning, sometimes in traffic, sometimes on the highway. And the worst part? A failing sensor doesn't always shut the car down cleanly. Sometimes it works when cold, but glitches when the engine heats up, causing random stalls or no-start conditions. We've seen customers replace starters, batteries, and fuel pumps, all while the engine refused to run, only to discover the problem was this little sensor buried near the bell housing. If ignored, a bad crank sensor can also mess with timing, which stresses pistons, valves, and the ignition system. What looks like a minor electrical issue can quickly become a big mechanical problem. So if your car randomly dies, stalls, or cranks endlessly without firing, don't overlook this cheap but critical sensor. Replacing it early can save you thousands in engine repairs. Number 1. Engine air filter. It may look like a simple piece of paper, but it's your engine's first line of defense. A clogged or dirty air filter restricts airflow, causing a rich fuel mixture. That leads to poor combustion, more emissions, and over time, carbon buildup on pistons and valves. We once removed a filter that was so packed with dirt and debris it looked like a mud brick. The car's engine was sluggish, ran hotter than normal, and eventually suffered permanent damage that could have been avoided with a $20 filter swap. So don't assume slightly dirty is harmless. Even a partially blocked filter can reduce performance, lower fuel economy, and shorten engine life. Breathe clean or pay dirty. So here's the golden rule every smart car owner lives by. Never cheap out on critical parts. That $5 PCV valve, $15 thermostat, $10 radiator cap, or $20 air filter might seem small, but when they fail, they can spiral into repairs that cost hundreds or even thousands. The difference between an engine that lasts 300,000 miles and one that dies before 100,000 often comes down to one decision. Choose quality, replace on schedule, and don't ignore the small stuff. Stick with OEM or trusted aftermarket parts, follow service intervals, and pay attention to warning signs. That tiny investment today keeps your engine healthy, your wallet safe, and your car running reliably for years. The bargain bin versions might save you $10 today, but they'll cost you thousands tomorrow. If this video saved you from a nightmare repair, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and share this with a friend who always buys the cheapest parts on the shelf. Thanks for watching, and remember, keep it smooth, keep it clean, and keep driving smart.